Welcome to the fastest stuff in town. Today we're going to start this Sanhedrin Daf Nun Ches. We are going to continue on Nun Zayin Beis, second to last line from the bottom, the Sabra Meir. So we've been learning about the mitzvahs b'nei Noach, and finally we're on the Daf of Noach. So this is a little bit of a siman for us to be able to remember the basic vicinity where all the Gemara and the Sugi of Shivas B'nei Noach is found. V'savra Meir kol erva shebeistin shel yisum amisin aleha ben Noach musa aleha. Is it true that any time we find that a Yid will be sentenced to death for violating a particular erva, that same prohibition, that same act with a ben Noach also? Of Hatanya, we learn ger as we continue to Nun Chesed Aleph. A ger shahaisa haraso shlo b'kedusha v'leidas b'kedusha. So you have a person who converted. Now he was conceived. At the time he was conceived, he was not a Yid because his parents were not Jewish. However, by the time that he was born, his mother had converted. Says Rashi, "V'chol zarshes gayer." We know that anytime a ger converts, is kikatan shenoilad. It's like he's a new person. Boy av v'aim. It's ki'ilu. Of course, he does have a biological father and mother, but we say halachically he doesn't have a father and mother. V'kroivim dami v'ain olav kurva mikaydim achein. There's no relatives. Umi rabbanan hu the goes lehad v'chol asura slay. Mishum shol yaimer boyim kedusha chamur kedusha kala. How's it shaykh that he had a mother when he was a guy, and all of a sudden now he doesn't have a mother, doesn't have a father, and therefore he could end up having relations with all these people? So instead, people will say, "Oh, yeah, the only reason why he became a yid is because he went from a higher level of kedusha. Now he's a yid, he has a lower level of kedusha." So that's why midrabanan we say that doesn't work. So haketzad. So nasa chaysai min ha'aim. Let's say he marries his sister from his father's side. In other words, it's his paternal sister, yotzi. So he has to leave that relation. Min ha'av, that's min ha'aim from the mother's side. Min ha'av yikayim. However, if it's from the father's side, if it's your paternal sister, so then you can remain with her. Says Rashi, shlo yineser iser achva b'vnei Noach. Aim. The whole Isser of Achva is dafka maternal, not paternal. The Chsiv, as it says, V'gam amano achoisi bas avihi achlo bas imi alma bas av sharilhu. Must be the daughter of the father's mutter. Bas aimu sharilhu. But the whole Isser is if this Erev is connected to maternal side, not the paternal side. That's why it says if he married his sister, his maternal sister, he's yoitzi. However, min av, then yikayim achos av. So if he marries his father's sister, so again min aim from the mother yoitzi, min av yikayim. So again, we see the difference between maternal and paternal side. Achos aim. The mother's sister, min ha'aim, yaitzi, achas ha'aim, min ha'av. So, Rameir oimer yaitzi, chamer yikayim. So actually we have a machlokas over here, that when it comes to the achas ha'aim, your mother's sister, from your father's side, whether or not yaitzi yikayim. Shari Rameir oimer, so why does Rameir say you have to leave? Because he says, the kol erva shehi mishum share lo yaitzi. Anytime the link is due to being a relative, you have to leave. Nishim share ha'av, share ha'aim, because of the mother, then yoitzi. However, when it comes to share av, yikayim. When it comes to the paternal side, you're yikayim. Umutter be'eshes achiv, you're allowed to be with your brother's wife. Be'eshes achi aviv, your father's brother's wife. The shar kol rayas muterisol, and all the other rayas are muter. So let's look at Rashi. Achais aviv min ha'aim yoitzi. V'yasiv al kein yazav ishes aviv. That a person leaves his father. V'darshrin le aviv Achais aviv min aim. It's referring to your father's sister from your mother's side. Achas aim min aim yoitzi k'dichsev es imoi zu achvos imoi min aim. Fine. So according to the Chamim, the reason why they said over here they have some machlokas when it comes to ha'aim min ha'av, so it's yikayim. It says Rashi v'loy gazrinan. There's no gezerah, but hu adin v'haras v'leidasu v'kedusha. Even if he was born, this is a case where he was conceived shlo b'kedusha, but he was born b'kedusha. But he says actually it doesn't make a difference. Even if he was born not a yid. Not come to exclude that. It's coming to exclude if his mother was Jewish before the conception. Even did Damile Israel, since he's like a yid, Rameir Dilma Asal Achlufim B'Yisrael. So it's possible Asal Achlufim B'Yisrael. Okay. Back in the Gemara. So, Nasa Isha Ubita. Let's say he marries a woman and her daughter. So he can remain married with one, but he has to have one leave. Says Rashi, Ashar Gerim Koi. Kusi. If he married them while he was a Kusi, this Gairu Imoy, they convert with him, Inami, or alternatively, Hakai Mishum the Hak Yisrael Gomer. Okay. So he can remain married with one, but not the other one. We don't want him to get married this way to the woman and her sister and her daughter. Mesa Ishto, if his wife dies, Mutter B'Chamoisa. He's allowed to marry his mother-in-law, says Rashi. Yavobi Shekaimel Ishtoi Mishnus Gayer, even though he was with his wife upon conversion, the Ben Nayach Huzar al Chamoisai. Again, a Ben Nayach is not Huzar on being with a mother-in-law. The name of Boy Mikdusha, etc. The Ikad Yami, some say Asa B'Chamoiso. Some sakas say that he's Asa to the mother-in-law. Anyway, so it says Rashi, it says that he's mutter to the father's wife. In this case, you would mamish kill the guy. So by a yid, you would kill in the case of Ashes Ovid. But over here we're saying it's mutter. So what do you mean when we make the statement on the previous daf that kol erva shebeistin shel yisrael mamisin aleha ben nech musa. So then how can we say by he's mutter be'eshes aviv? That's one question. Furthermore, says Rashi, b'chein b'chamaisai, according to one shita, that with regard to his mother-in-law, v'gatani aser b'achaiso is aser to the sister of achos aviv v'achos imoy v'afal pi she'ein beisin shel yisrael mamisin aleha. Here, when it comes to these cases, it's povakert to b'chein b'chamaso is a question, but furthermore, it said that he's usher to the sister, his father's sister, and his mother's sister. Even though the Beis Din would not actually kill you if you were a yid, so then how do we understand why it would be usher in those cases? So Rabbi Yehuda Kasha Harameir Alibed Rabbi Lezer Harameir Alibed Rabbi Kiva. It's a machlokas. The Sanyal Ken Yazav Ishes Aviv Ves Imoy. A person leaves his parents and gets married. Rabbi Lezer Omer Aviv Achais Aviv. When it says Aviv, it's referring to his father's sister. Imoy is Achas Imo, is referring to his mother's sister. Bikiva Omer Aviv, when it says Aviv, it's Ashes Aviv. It's your father's wife. Imo is Imo Mamish. Okay. So again, we see this machlokas. That says V'davak V'loy B'zachar. So it says that they're supposed to get married to a woman, but not to not Mishko Zachar. It says Rashi, the lake of Dibuk. There's no form of Dibuk there. The Mitaych Shein HaNishkav Nehene. Since one person is not getting Hana, Enu Nidvak Imoy. There's no Dvekus. So it's interesting. The element of Dvekus between a man and a woman is because B'shas tashmish, both of them are actually getting hana from one another. However, when it comes to a mishkav zachar, that person is not getting hana. So therefore, that's not a way of davak. How could you connect to two people connect to one another when one person is in tsar and the other person is getting hana? So a very fascinating approach to mishkav zachar. That's a chisaron of a davak. Be'ishtoi, v'loi be'eshes chaveroi. So it says with your wife, but not your friend's wife. Vayu basar echad, it has one flesh. Misha nasim basar echad yosem behema v'chayeshe nasim basar echad. It's coming to exclude bestiality, which obviously is not shaykh to be able to have a child, to produce a child through that form of a relationship. Omer Mar, Rabbi Lezer Omer Aviv, when it says father, it's Ama Achos Aviv, your father's sister. So Ema Aviv Mamish, maybe it means not to have tashmish with your father. That we already learned out from B'davak, that you can't have tashmish with a zachar. So therefore, when it says Aviv, we're not going to just learn the pashtus, pashut shat, that would be the father, because we already know that. Okay, so Ema Eishes Aviv, maybe it's your father's wife. So how to be ishtoi v'lo be'eshes chaveroi, that we already established also. So emo echad mis la'achar misa, maybe it's after death. Tell me the imoy, ma imoy, just like your mother. Dolav ishus, there's no marriage. Av aviv dolav ishus, so it's even if they're not married. Imoy achlis imo. So we said, what does imo mean? It means your mother's sister. Ema imo mamish. So hainu be'ishto v'lo be'eshes chavero. That's still considered to be someone else's wife. The emo achamisa domid aviv ma aviv delav mamish. Just like the father doesn't mean it literally. Avima delav mamish doesn't mean your mother, but rather it's referring to achasimoi. So Rabbi Kiva oimer aviv eshes aviv. It's referring to your father's wife. Avima aviv mamish. Maybe it's talking to the father. So hainu v'davav lo zachar. As you said, because it's v'davak, we're already learning out mishkav zachar. Yahachi eshes aviv nami hainu b'ishtav be'eshes chaver. I don't understand. And how could he say that Rabbi Kiva saying that's referring to your father's wife? We already learned that also, that it's b'ishtav lo be'eshes chavero. So la'achamisa. It's talking about la'achamisa, that there's still a problem la'achamisa. So imo mamish. When it says imo means your mom, your actual mother. That's the same thing. So imo me'anu sasoi. It means that it was your mother who was ma'anis. Says Rashi, ema li'achamisa l'chayvu al eshes oviv l'achamisa soviv l'mishani dumid imoy. Okay, fine. Let's look at question 6. Al ken yazoid ishes oviv es imoy. You forsake your parents. Rabbi Kiva Omer Aviv actually means Eshes Aviv, your father's wife. Imo is Imo Mamash, your mother. So Kasha the typically Maseva the Krav Davim Ishtoi Vo Beshes Chavero. Why would you think it's your Imo Mamish, but it already says it's already an Isser taking someone else's wife. So he said Eshes Aviv. When it says Eshes Aviv, your father's wife, is Achar Misas Aviv. That's even after your father died. And Imo, it's Me'anu Sasai. Even if it was only, she was Ma'anis, and that's how she became your mother. So, but Mike Mifki, what exactly is this machlokas between these shithas? So, Rabbi Eliezer Savar, as we continue in Chesamid Beis, Aviv Dumyad Imoy. We compare a father to the mother. The imo dimid aviv, and the mother to the father. We only find this when it comes to sisters or siblings. It says Rashi to Ravayu mamish lekel memor. You can't say it's literally talking about a father or a mother. Because it can't talk about that you can't be with your father because that's already mishko zachar. We already know that. But Ravayu beishus lekel memor. You can't talk about when they're married. The imo lav mishum ishus. This or being with your mother is not because of ishus. The imkain hainu ishus aviv. So it's your father's wife. Hilchot Ravayu ba'achva. Both of them are talking about siblings. Okay. El ba'achva Rabbi Kiva mutav l'ukmi be'ishus aviv. I'd rather establish as your father's wife. The ikri ervas aviv. because that's considered to be the Erev of your father. Lafuki achvas aviv, excluding achvas aviv, Deshar aviv ikri. Eidus aviv, Erebas aviv lo mikri. Ikri. It's not considered to be the Erev of your father. Okay. Toshma. The pasuk says, Vayikach Amram es Yocheved. Doidasai. That Amram married Yocheved. So my lav doidasum in aim, that it's from the mother. Now, even though we said L'chaira, the aunt from the mother's side is Aser. No, lo doidasum min av. It was actually, they were related only paternally, and that's why it was mutter. Tashma. Ach loibas imi. My father's daughter, not my mother's daughter. Mechlal the basa emosura, which is mashma, because he said that because it is aser. The batizra achaisahu. You think it's Taka was his sister? Basachiv havi was his niece. Givan the hachihu. Since it's the case, loshim and av, loshim and aim. It makes no difference. Sharia. This is what he was saying. Korva the achlus islay bahada mi abba v'lo mi ima. I have a connection from your father's side and your mother's side. Tashma. Why did an Adam Rishon marry his daughter? In order for his son Cain to be able to marry his sister. Because they say that when Cain was born, he had a twin sister, and he married his sister. That the world is built on chesed. So halav hachi asira. Now it was a chesed that we allowed this. However, normally it certainly is aser. So we see Taka that we find that it's such a thing as aser. So her answer is kivan the ishtri. Once it became mutter for the sister, so therefore it remained mutter. Omer Rav Kahana kusi mutter bebitoi. Kusi is mutter with his daughter. So we said, but Adam didn't marry his daughter. That's the whole reason why. So therefore, it's not that it's actually a prohibition. Some say Taka is aser. So Teda shul yisa Adam as bitai. The truth is, it's approved because Adam himself was like a kuti. Knows he's not a yid. He was allowed to technically. He did not marry his daughter. He didn't marry Cain's sister. It's also had a time he was allowing his son Cain to marry her. However, really, maybe it's mutter. Eved mutter be'imoy. And Eved is mutter to his mother. Mutter bebi to his daughter. Yatzim echlal kusi u'klal Yisrael u'ba. Kiyasa Rabdimi Amr Rab Elazar Amr Rab Chanina ben Nayach Shiyachid Shivcha Avdai. We had this before. If you designate a Shivcha Kanainis to your Eved Ivri, Uvoleha, and the Kusis boil her, Neragoel, that's actually, it's going to be a capital offense, even though for a Yid it's not. Me'emas, when is this? Rav Nachman, Midikarula Revisa de Planya, when she's called so-and-so's wife. So once that happens, that's already enough that the Kusi will be killed. So me'emas hatarta. When does she become mutter? So Rav Huna mishapar reish b'shuk. When she shows her hair out into the public, then she's no longer connected to that man. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Chanina ben Nayach shabal ishtai shul kadarka chayev. If a ben Nayach has biu even of his own wife, but it's biu shul kadarka, he's chayev. Shneimar b'davak v'lo shul kadarka. So this is, at least in the Havamina, that we think that just like by Mishkav Zachar, that's Chisyon of a Davak, so too when it comes to having Biyashul Kadarka. Samurava, Umi Ikami did Israel Lo Machayev, Akusi Machayev. Understand? We know that when a Yid does this, he's not going to be Chayev, right? It's your wife. If you have Tashmish with your wife, Biyashul Kadarka, it's not a capital offense. So how could it be for a Kusi or an Akum to be killed for that? No, really, we say that Bia Shokadarka is Bia, and therefore if you had committed adultery Bishlo Kedarka, you're chayiv, not by an akum. My time, Rabbi Ishto, v'lo b'eshlos chavero, v'davak shaloi Kedarka, Omram Chanina, that's it. Oivacham shehiko es Yisrael, v'novacham hits a Jew, chayiv misa, shnemer v'ivin koi v'chayiv v'yarkiyin ish, v'yachas a mitzri. So this mitzri, he was hitting a yid, so Moshe stood up and killed him first. And therefore we see, because he was chayiv misa. V'yomram Chanina, hasoiter loishal Yisrael, anyone who slaps the cheek of a yid, he'll soiter loishal shchina. It's like he kaviyachol hit the shchina. Shenemar Maikish Adam, the sneers of a man, Yila Kodesh, will Hashem will see the cheek. Okay, like it'll be Hashem's cheek. Magbia Avdai Shabbos Simon. All right, let's look at question 7. Menon the Akam Shehikas Yisrael Chai Misa. Well, from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Shargas and Mitzvah Mishim Shehika Yishmivri. Okay. Magbia Avdai Shabbos Simon. Reish Lakish Magbia Yado Al Chavero. If you lift up your hand against your friend, Avdai Shaloi, he called, even if you didn't hit him, Nika Rasha. So even if you threaten, you're Rasha. Shnever V'yomer Rasha. Lama Takariacha. Why are you hitting your friend? Lama Hakisa Lo Nemar. This is why did you hit? Lama Taka, which means Alpha Shaloi He Kahu. Nika Rasha. He still called a Rasha, even though he actually didn't hit, but you seemed like you were going to hit. So fine. Someone who threats with violence is actually a sinner. Shnemar ve'imlo lakachti b'chazaka. Then this is referring to Eli Hakayin, that his kids were taking meat. It was a big sin. Rav Huna Omer tikatzitz yado. His hands should be cut off. Shnemar zura rima tishaver. His hands should be cut. Rav Huna cuts yada, had the hand cut. Rabbi Omer ein lo takana el kvura. There's no takana except for kvura, says Rashi. Okay. Shenemar v'ish zarua loy haaretz. V'yom Rabbi Elazar lo nos the karka el lo bali zerayis. Land was only given to people who are strong-armed. Shnemar v'ish zarua lo haaretz. V'yom Reish Lakish Ma'nesiv. What does it mean when the pasuk says oived ad masai yispalachem? They will be satiated with bread. So imoy so adam atzmo ke'eved l'adama. If you make yourself like a servant to the earth, which is like in level of humility, then yisbal lechem, you'll end up being satiated with bread. V'imlav lo yisbal lechem. V'yom Reish Lakish Avchacham Shabbos Chaim Misa. Famous sugya. Then Akum is not allowed to keep Shabbos. Shenemar v'yom v'layel lo yishbusay v'yom Rab Remar as harashul hen zuhi misasa. As we said, he's chayiv misa. So Marvina feel sheni b'Shabbos, even if it's on a Sunday. If he keeps or a Monday, he keeps Monday as his day of rest. You're not allowed to have a day of rest. An Akum's not entitled to a day of rest. V'lachshon gabi zayin mitzvahs. So why is it when the Shem mitzvahs been indayich that they're not allowed to keep Shabbos? Ki kochashim sheval tasa. We only mention sheval tasa among the 7. Kum v'aseh lo kochashim. We don't mention them. So for the Gemara in Yun Testament Aleph, v'hadinim kumasehu v'kochashim kumaseh v'sheval tasa ninhu. So when it comes to dinim, which one teretz could be that there's a question if dinim actually are included, maybe it could be sirus instead. Anyway, but assuming that dinim is there, even though it is an asay, but it also has los asays in it. So therefore, we cannot include not keeping Shabbos. Of course, the famous joke, the guy who was learning Torah with his friend, and he's after many years, he said, by the way, I want to tell you, I'm not Jewish, I'm converting. So the guy says, what are you talking about? How is that possible? I see you keep Shabbos. And the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that a nachash Shabbos is chayim misa. So how can you keep Shabbos? Oh, you don't understand. I actually keep like a napkin in my pocket, and I walk outside, and I carry a napkin on Shabbos. So he said, what are you talking about? There's an Erev. So on that they respond, I don't hold to the Erev. Okay. It's an old joke. But let's look maybe at another question. Let's move. Actually, there's nothing there. So let's see. Question TA7. Al Kain Yazav Ishas Aviv Es Imoi Mi Hakavan Aviv. What does it mean when it says your father? I got this half wrong. These are hard types of questions. So it does. So according to one, the kavan is Achis Aviv, your father's sister, or it's talking about Aviv. It's talking about Eishes Aviv, your father's wife. So that's Al Kain Yazav Ishas Aviv Ves Imoi. Let's just find that. All right, Al Kain Yazav Ish Es Aviv Es Imoi. So Aviv is either could be Achas Aviv, or Rabbi Kiva says Aviv is Eishes Aviv. So that's what we were looking for that. That's TA7. And okay, we didn't do that question. TB8. Minolan da'akum shehikas Yisrael Chaimisa Moshe Rabbeinu b'Mitzrayim sheish Mitzri shehu hika at Yisrael Moshe Pasak shehu Chaimisa. Adkan.